I am going to tell you something that is going to sound strange, but before I left my relationship, my body was trying to tell me for months it was time to leave. And I didn't listen, not because I didn't want to, not because I didn't hear it, but because I was so afraid of what it was trying to tell me. It started with visions, not dramatic ones, but like super quiet and peaceful ones. I was in the shower, also in bed. Like this happened on the most random moments that I just closed my eyes for a while, or I got sucked in this vision, this moment where I was imagining myself taking the plane to a place where I want to live without him. Me doing basic things like going to the shop, doing the things I love, traveling alone again, all without him. There was this silence, and in that picture, I was so calm. I was okay, even more than okay. I was breathing, like actually breathing, for the first time in I don't know how long. My whole body was just relaxing in those few seconds. It was like this tension in my muscles were finally free because they have been clenched for months. But then the guilt would crash in, and even though my relationship was very bad since the beginning, I still felt so guilty because I said yes. I was going to marry actually. But that version who said yes was a version of myself that still was afraid of being alone. The one who still had some hope that things could change, even though I knew deep inside that it was never going to change anyway. And even though I really knew that I wanted a different life, but there was something holding me back. And this could literally be any situation because your relationship doesn't have to be bad. You could be stuck in a relationship for 10 years, for example, and he didn't cheat, if he'd never lied to you, but there's just this feeling that you feel unsettled. And I always say, if you feel unsettled, you know you are meant for more. And it doesn't matter how hard you try to keep yourself in that relationship, that vision will keep coming up. And I know that you get this feeling right now. You're listening to this and wondering, why would I dream about a life without a person who is sleeping next to you right now? I will tell you how, because your body already knows. It knew before you did, and this is something that also happened to me. So I'm going to tell you exactly what it means, everything that I almost didn't listen to, and what happened when I finally listened to it. But first, before we get into this, I need to be honest with something, because like I already told before that I almost didn't leave. I was close to staying forever because I made a promise when I told him I wanted to marry him. Again, the relationship was not perfect, so that was not the reason why I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay because leaving felt like dying. It felt like ripping a part of me that I have been spending so much time in. My identity, my routine, my future. The us I told everyone about. Like, you might know how it feels, but like if you have been married or you're going to marry, you see this whole future in front of you and you have told everyone. So there is this feeling that everyone expects something from you. So walking away from that life was like burning my own house to the ground. So I kept finding reasons to stay, even though the signs were everywhere. Even everyone told me to leave, but I kept telling myself it would be all okay and maybe someday I would feel better in a relationship. So I started to believe that I was actually the problem. And I asked myself, like, what would happen if I actually would leave? Would I regret it? So yeah, I was looking for permission from everywhere, from my friends, from the internet, from my family, from a sign from God. And even though the signs were all yes, leave, there was still something holding me back. Every single one gave me that permission, but yet I was the one who still had to make the step. The only person who can give permission to you is actually yourself. And that realization is like, yeah, messed up. It's the loneliest realization that exists. So if you're watching this looking for permission, well, I cannot give it to you. But I can tell you what my body was trying to tell me. And maybe hearing it from someone who has been through the exact same situation, it will help you trying to hear what your body has been trying to say to you all this time. First, I started seeing a life without him and it just looked so peaceful. I talked about this one already in the intro, but I want to go a bit deeper because this one is very important and even the most important one, because this is the one I fought the hardest. It wasn't a plan, it was not that I was sitting there mapping out my whole escape plan. It was more like just living life. My imagination started to wandering around without my permission. Again, this could be in the shower, in the car, while you're on your way to somewhere, while you're eating. While I was sitting there, I was picturing a whole different life. For example, waking up on your own, being able to choose where you go without telling anyone, to do what you want without anyone being there and going crazy because of it. I would be in a grocery store and buying my own things again, only for one person. And in every single one of these flashes, I had the same feeling. I was just so relaxed and I was so peaceful, quiet, light, and free. Like putting down something very heavy. I didn't know that I was carrying. But I felt so guilty about it, like something was really wrong with me. Because what kind of person fantasizes of being alone while being in a relationship, right? So I'm going to tell you what kind it is. It's the kind that has been suffocating this whole time, and your soul is showing you what oxygen looks like. Your mind is just dreaming what it needs. And I don't know if you believe in God or the universe or anything, but I do, and I truly believe if you get these visions, like God is literally showing you where you're meant to go, what is really meant for you. It's showing you glimpses of the life that you're meant to live, of the life that has been waiting for you this all time. And your mind, your soul, it needs peace. That's the exact reason why it has been showing you. And if that peace doesn't include Him, that's not betrayal, it's survival. 2. My body started keeping score. And this means that my body was living in this low level state of alert. It was like a smoke detector that never was getting turned off. Nothing was on fire, but my body didn't want to believe that anymore. Because it has been burned down by moods that shifted without warnings, by silences that lasted days, and by finds that were actually never fine. So every single time that I was alone at home and I would hear that he was coming home, like I heard the car, my stomach would drop. And when I was out with my friends, for example, my phone was always on the table, and whenever I saw his name pop up, there was this clenched in my jaws. My shoulders would climb up to my ears because I was so anxious. And I even remember of the end of the relationship, when I was at his home, my body was acting weird, like weirder than normal. It was like I almost couldn't breathe. Like I was working on my laptop and I had these moments that I literally did this. And he was always asking me, what is wrong? Why are you constantly making these noises? So literally my body was freaking out on every level that was possible. So here's what broke me. I realized that I was feeling more safe in crowded rooms where I didn't know anyone at all. I felt more safe there than being alone with him in the room, being alone with the man of my life. So when your body is feeling safer around strangers than your own partner, your nervous system has already filed for divorce. Your heart is just the last one to get to the paperwork. Sign 3, I rehearsed everything before I said it. I would practice every single thing that I was going to say 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, softening every damn word, trying to find the right version because I was so scared to start a fight or that he would get defensive, something that wouldn't make him go cold. Something that wouldn't make me regret my own words. And most of the time, even after all of these rehearsals, I didn't even tell him. Because in the beginning of the relationship, we had so many different fights where I just stood up for myself. If he would make these stupid jokes about other women, for example, every single time that I brought it up, it hurted me. He always told me that I was sensitive. And the moment when I was really done with it and told him and even was starting to cry in front of him, he gave me the silent treatment for 3 days. So somehow along that way, I really figured out for myself that no matter what I tried to tell him, it will always break out in something way much worse. The other time he gives me silence, and sometimes he gets defensive, he gets mad. There was always something going on. So even the moments where the relationship was a little bit better, I was even afraid of telling the normal things because even then he would go insane. I remember there was this event I was going to with all women, self employed women, so there wasn't a danger at all. There weren't even men there. The thing is, I'm very independent. I love to decide for myself if I want to go somewhere or not. And I don't get me wrong, because like I do believe in a relationship you should tell each other everything, right? That is very normal. But there was this moment that even that was not good for him. But even then, I stood up for myself. So I went to him and I told him, look, I'm going to this event and it's all going to be women. And he was like, what? Okay, nice that you didn't tell me. Nice that you didn't talk to me first before you decided to go. So, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how hard I tried to softening my words and to say the right things, there was always going to be something. Do you know what happens to a woman who has been swallowing her voice for years? She even forgets that she has one. She starts to believe her thoughts are too much. She starts to believe that her needs are too much. She starts to believe that her feelings are too heavy. She shrinks herself into something so small to keep someone else comfortable. And she calls that love, but it is not love. Love doesn't require you to rehearse for asking basic understandings or basic kindness. Love doesn't punish you for having a voice. So if the only version of you that allows you to exist in a relationship as the quiet one, it's not a partnership. You are in a prison that lets you sleep in a nice bed. For I cried in places where he wouldn't find me. The moments when he walked out of the room when he was mad. The moments when I got home. The moments where I was walking alone on the street, when I was sitting in a bus or train, when I was able to talk with my friends. There were these days that I would call my friends like I was hiding from him. I was going outside and I was sitting along the street crying, 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 and telling them that I could not handle it anymore. And then I was standing in front of the front door, wiping my face, acting like nothing really happened. Take a deep breath and put on a mask. Well, I wasn't crying for one thing. It was never just a fight or just one moment. It was the wave of all of it together. The exhaustion of performing, I was fine. I had this feeling that I felt so alone being in a relationship and feeling more alone than I ever felt when I was single. It was a distance of what my life was supposed to look like and what it actually looked like when no one was watching. I always cried in secret because somewhere along the way I learned that crying in front of him would make things worse. It got ignored, it annoyed him, it got turned in evidence that I was too sensitive, that I was too emotional. So I took my pain underground and I got so good at hiding it that I even forgot that I was hurt. 5. His absence felt better than his presence. The moment he left for work, when he was going to the shop alone, whenever I was going home to be with my father, for example, there was something in my chest that would open. It was like a fist unclenching. I would feel my shoulders drop for a second finally. So instead of the disappointment of not seeing him, I felt relief. Actual relief. It was like someone called off school and I didn't have to take a test, like you know how that feels, right? And even then, there was a second that I felt guilty again. Because what kind of person feels relieved when the person they love isn't coming home or you're not going to see them? So let me tell you what kind that is. It's the kind who has been carrying two people's emotions in just one body. The one that has been performing being okay while she wasn't even okay at all. It has been like that for so long that being alone at home, being alone far away from him, feels like coming up for air. The kind whose body has been whispering please just one night without managing someone else's emotion and someone else's mood for months. So if their absence feels like freedom, their presence is a cage. 6. My future stopped including him. I used to picture him with everything, like marrying with him, the apartment, the trip. We were planning to go together to Thailand. I had this permanent vision of a life with him. And then just one day, whenever someone asked me like, oh, what are you going to do next year? when are you going back to Thailand? Are you even going back to Thailand? I noticed that I was imagining a life without him again, and I started to tell them I am going to do this instead of we are going to do this. Someone would mention my next year, and my brain automatically didn't include him at all. I would imagine myself moving to another city, and the picture had only one person in it. So I want you to understand that your imagination is the most honest version of yourself. It doesn't perform, it doesn't people please, it doesn't stay in situations out of guilt. So if your future stopped including them before you gave it permission to, it's because the deepest, the most honest version of yourself, the most honest part of you, already left. She packed her bags months ago. She's just been waiting at the door for the rest of you to catch up. And then the last one, I was Googling my life at 2 p.m. I'm going to say that directly and I need you to feel it. There was a night where he was asleep, and not only one night, by the way. This happened multiple times while he was lying next to me. And then I was on my phone searching on Google, TikTok, Instagram, wherever, videos about, is it time to leave my relationship? I was searching for red flags. I was asking ChatGPT, is it normal to feel this unhappy? Am I seeing things that aren't there? Am I being dramatic, or is this real? So I was scrolling through answers from strangers on the internet, looking for that one sentence that would give me permission to trust my own feeling, to trust my own body, to trust my gut feeling, to trust what I already felt. So if that sounds familiar, if you're watching this video right now at 2 p.m. for the exact same reason, I need you to hear this. The fact that you searched for this video is already the answer that you needed. The fact that you came by this video and you clicked on it, that's also an answer. Because safe people don't search these kind of things at 2 p.m. Loved people don't need strangers to confirm what they already felt, to confirm that this feeling is real. The only thing that is standing between you and the truth is the fear of what's going to happen after you finally said it out loud. The day I finally left wasn't the day I thought it would be. And this one is really harsh. I'm just going to be honest, because I still feel guilty sometimes for this, because honestly, I was waiting for a big fight. I was waiting for something huge to happen again, even though it happened 10 times already. I was still waiting for one more big thing. So I had a reason to go. But I reached that moment that I was just so done, because we had been fixing it a million times and it always ended up the same. But that moment when I left, that was now 3 months ago, I just knew what I wanted. I want to focus on my career. I didn't want to fall back in this toxic behavior anymore. I realized back then I had to cut the cord completely because my future depended on that. So I just left, and I left on his birthday. And I remember feeling so bad because of that. And even sitting there on the bus, I was still wondering, is this really over? But then I was sitting there, and there was this music playing on the bus, and it was the song of Billie Eilish, What Was I Made For? And that was actually a song that I listened to when we broke up the first time in the very beginning. And I remember listening to that song so heartbroken, and there is this part of the song when she says, "Don't tell my boyfriend it's not what he's made for. What was I made for?" So that song reminded me that whenever I was with him, I kept myself small. Even other people always told me, he dims your light. But that was a version of me in the beginning of the relationship. But right now, I do know what I want and what I was made for. It was all meant to happen like that. That song, I was crying in the bus, but it was not the same type of crying like before. It was more a relief. It was a confirmation, you're on the right path. This was supposed to happen because you know what you're made for. And him, he was not made for it. So at that very moment, I heard my voice for the very first time. And it said, I miss her. I miss me. I miss the version of myself that was just independent, and the version of myself that wouldn't apologize for it. So it made me realize that I will never find her again if I would go back to him. I wish that someone would have told me that leaving doesn't mean that you failed. It means you finally chose yourself after choosing someone who didn't choose you at all. I wish someone would have told me that the grief would be brutal, but the relief would come faster than expected. I only cried for 2 full days. And then just one morning I woke up and I decided, wow, this really doesn't hurt me anymore. 2 years ago, I was constantly checking his page, and this time, no. Like, his life doesn't bother me at all, and he can do whatever he wants. It felt like I was alive again. I wish someone would have told me about silence. I was so scared of the empty room that I had to sit in without him, but instead, it became the safest place I had ever lived. And that quiet wasn't lonely at all. It was the first time that my own thoughts wasn't competing with someone else's opinions. It was the first time waking up and asking myself, okay, what do I want? What am I going to do? And I just stood up. I changed gym. I went for boxing classes. So I finally did the things that I always wanted to try without him going crazy for it. So I wish that someone had told me that I didn't need to be strong to leave. I didn't have to have a plan. I didn't have to feel ready at all. I just had to be honest to myself for just 1 second. 1 second of, this is not my life. This is not who I am. This is not what I'm here for. That's all it took. Just one breath and the door opened. So I'm not going to tell you to leave. That's not my call. And you will do it whenever you're ready. But I need you to know something. You don't need a permission to go. You don't need a reason to make sense to anyone else. You don't need a betrayal, a breaking point, or a drama. I am not happy is enough. I don't recognize myself is enough. My body has been screaming to myself for months. I am finally going to listen to it. Is enough. And love is not a reason to stay anywhere where you're not happy, to stay somewhere that is slowly erasing you. Love without peace is just pain with a beautiful name. And you have been in pain for long enough. So the woman that you keep seeing in these visions is standing on the other side of the scariest decision you will ever make. She is right there, just past the door that you're afraid to open. And when you are ready, she will be waiting for you. She will be the first one to welcome you home.